Oh my God, last night was so crazy. Me and Mr. Ambassador, we went out and we went to a planet very, very far away. And we went to party all night. And we just get too much oxygen. Like oxygen shots, oxygen, jellies, oxygen everywhere. It was like so fantastic. We had like an amazing night. So, we was talking about humans, and we find out that humans live in two polarities, like in money, which is a material thing, and love, which is something completely emotional. So, between these two polarities, humans are basically living their lives. So, I found a book about modern psychology, and casually this podcast has an episode about it. So let's listening together and to find out more about the psychology behind money and how some people think about it. And I don't know, let's go in deep in this topic. I'm very hungover. I was recovering really well. So yeah. Happy weekend, happy week, whatever.
Ever notice how money just, like, messes with logic? We know we're supposed to save, right? And that debt, bad.
Right.
But then, those shoes go on sale. Suddenly, all bets are off.
Yep, I hear that.
It's like our brains have this whole other set of rules for money that logic just can't crack.
It's not just you, believe me. It's psychology. And it's more powerful than we realize. That's actually what we're diving deep into today, the psychology of money. Why we do the things we do with money, even when on the surface it seems totally irrational.
Okay, so less spreadsheets, more like therapy for our wallets then.
Exactly. You shared some interesting research and real-life stories with me, so I'm really excited to unpack it all and see what insights we find, what we learn.
I'm here for it. Where do we even start? This whole thing feels kind of huge.
Well, I think a good starting point might be to challenge one of those assumptions we often have about money. Like, how often have you heard that financial success is, like, all about intelligence or a good education?
Oh, tell me about it. Like, it's just about being good at math.
Right.
My inner child who struggled through algebra is still traumatized.
Exactly. But the reality is, and the research seems to back this up, when it comes to building wealth, your behavior, how you act, often matters way more than how good you were in school.
Okay, now you have to prove it.
Yeah.
Give me an example that will make me want to rethink my whole relationship with my bank account.
Okay, well, consider the story of Ronald Reed. He was a janitor, right? And he amassed an $8 million fortune.
Wait, hold on. A janitor? $8 million?
$8 million.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Money is weird. You'd think someone with that kind of wealth would have, like, a fancy title, not be emptying trash cans.
It really goes against our expectations, right? But he did it. He lived frugally, was really consistent with his investments, let compound interest do its thing, and boom, $8 million.
Okay, that's wild. It's like those medical school cases. They always contrast, the textbook patient with the one who throws all the rules out the window.
Exactly.
You need both to learn,
I think that's a great analogy because these stories, they highlight just how powerful our behaviors and habits really are in shaping our finances.
Okay, so we're not saying education is useless, are we?
No, not at all. Education's important, of course.
Right.
But it's our day-to-day choices that really add up, that determine whether we end up like a Ronald Reed or, well, the opposite.
So less about knowing the fancy formulas, more about understanding the why behind our money moves.
Right, and a lot of that why goes way back, like how much of our money mindset is shaped by, say, how we grew up or even big events we lived through.
That's interesting.
It's huge, actually. We often underestimate how much those personal histories are coloring how we view money today.
So like someone who lived through the Depression would have a totally different outlook than like a millennial who's only known good times, economically speaking.
Exactly. I mean, imagine living through something like the Great Depression. Your whole perspective on saving, on risk, even what you consider a need versus a want, it's probably going to be completely different from someone who grew up during, say, a booming economy.
It's like their internal financial compass was set in a totally different era.
Right, exactly. And those early experiences, they can leave a mark, a lasting impression. Like, if you experienced a period of super high inflation, bonds might not seem that appealing, even if, logically, they make sense in your portfolio.
Wow, yeah.
It's those past experiences acting as a filter on every money decision we're making now, without us even realizing it.
So what could seem like an irrational money choice to me could make total sense to you, given where you've been, what you've experienced. That's a lot to unpack.
It is, and it's exactly why empathy is so crucial, especially when we talk about finances. Trying to understand the why, where the other person's coming from, their fears, even their aspirations, it helps us provide guidance that actually resonates.
It's not just about crunching the numbers, it's about understanding people.
100%.
And maybe understanding that sometimes luck's got to play a role in all of this too, right?
Oh, yes. The luck factor. We like to pretend it doesn't exist, especially in finance, where we love to think we're in control.
We love a good story about hard work equaling success.
Absolutely.
But reality, way messier, right?
Way messier. Take someone like Bill Gates. Brilliant guy, right. But even he talks about how lucky he was to go to one of the few schools at the time that actually had access to computers. That one seemingly small thing had a huge impact on where he ended up.
Talk about right place, right time. But then it's not just luck, it's what you do with it too, right?
Absolutely, you're right. But it does highlight how important it is to acknowledge those external factors, the twists of fate that can lead to either wild success or even failure.
And that's where his friend Kent comes in, right?
Exactly. Gates always said Kent was equally as brilliant. But tragically, he passed away before he was able to really reach his full potential. It's a stark reminder that sometimes no matter how hard we work, no matter how smart we are, life has other plans.
It really makes you think twice about judging someone's financial situation, doesn't it?
It does.
We never really know the full story, the opportunities, the setbacks, the things that were totally beyond their control.
It's like you said earlier, empathy. It's practicing humility, Celebrate those wins for sure, but acknowledge the role luck played. And when you're facing setbacks, remember, sometimes it's not about what you could have done differently.
It's more about navigating whatever hand you've been dealt.
Exactly.
Okay, but if luck plays such a big role, should we all just throw in the towel? Leave it all up to chance?
Not at all. Recognizing the influence of luck, it shouldn't paralyze us, If anything, it should empower us.
How so?
Because it reminds us to focus on what we can control. Making informed decisions, managing risk, building a financial strategy that can handle those inevitable storms, because they're coming, believe me.
So, build our financial fortresses, right?
Right.
But bracing for those curveballs, life throws our way.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're building those financial fortresses, right? But what are we working towards? Isn't there a point where more money doesn't equal, more happiness?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We chase those raises, those dream of winning the lottery, thinking that's it, that's the ticket to lasting happiness. But
It's not that simple.
not even close.
You get that promotion, finally buy the thing you've been wanting forever. And the thrill is gone, way faster than it takes to max out your credit card.
That's hedonic adaptation for you. We get used to good things so quickly. New car smell, gone in a week, tops. But those car payments, they stick around. So if it's not just about more stuff, then what is it about? What actually brings that lasting contentment?
All right, lay it on me. What's the secret the finance gurus don't want us to know? Is it world peace, finding the lost city of Atlantis?
Haha, good guesses. But it might be a bit more attainable than that. See, it's about shifting our focus from what we acquire, the stuff, to what we experience. And often that boils down to one key thing: time.
Time, as in that thing that seems to disappear no matter how much money I make?
Exactly. Think about it. What do most people regret when they're at the end of their lives? Very rarely is it, I wish I'd spent more hours at the office, or if only I'd bought that bigger house. It's more about those missed connections, the adventures they didn't take, the moments they didn't savor, all those things. They require time, not just money.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. It's about using money as a tool, not just to buy more things, but to actually create a life with more rich experiences, stronger relationships, all that good stuff.
Exactly. Think about it having the financial freedom to take a sabbatical from work without stressing about your income, or maybe finally pursuing that passion project you've been putting off without the pressure of, this has to make money, like yesterday. That's what we're talking about, time affluence. It's about having control over your time, not just your bank account.
Okay, now that's a definition of wealth I can get behind. But let's be real, most of us are stuck doing the opposite. trading our time for money to buy things we probably don't need, to impress people we might not even like.
It's a classic trap. But breaking free starts with acknowledging a simple truth time. It's finite. We can always earn more money, but we can't earn more time. So that begs the question, how can we use our money to essentially buy back some of that precious time?
All right, I'm all ears. Give me the actionable steps, how to get off this hamster wheel.
It all starts with awareness. Taking a good, hard look at where our money's actually going each month, what we're spending it on. Can we identify those expenses that are, honestly, unnecessary? Those little money leaks that are draining not just our bank accounts, but our time, too.
So like that daily latte habit, or the subscription box I haven't opened in 3 months.
Exactly. Or all those impulse purchases that promise happiness in a neat little package but deliver, what, maybe an hour of fleeting satisfaction.
Ouch, that hurts. Okay, but seriously, it's about aligning our spending with what we actually value, right? Easier said than done when those targeted ads seem to know me better than I know myself.
100%. It comes back to asking ourselves that question, does this purchase actually line up with my goals, with what I truly value? Or, put another way, would I rather have this thing right now, or the freedom and flexibility that comes from saving or investing that money?
Because sometimes the best purchases are the ones that buy back our time and energy, right? That weekend trip with friends, the cooking class that helps me stress less, those are investments in experiences, not just stuff.
Exactly. And speaking of investments, let's talk about that whole keeping up with the Joneses phenomenon.
Yeah.
You know, that subtle or not so subtle pressure to buy things, not because we need them, but because of the image we think they project.
Oh, I know it well. And social media has made that whole game a million times harder to navigate.
For sure. We see someone on Instagram driving a fancy car wearing designer clothes, and we think, man, they've made it. They must be so happy. But that's often not the full picture.
So you're saying chasing external validation through our stuff might actually be counterproductive. So should we all just start dressing down our finances?
Not necessarily. It's more about recognizing that true wealth is often invisible. It's the financial security that lets you sleep soundly at night, the freedom to make choices based on what you want, not what you think you should want.
So less about what you buy and more about what you don't buy, because you've prioritized your financial well-being, your freedom.
Right. It's about making conscious choices that support the life you want to live, not some image you think you need to project.
It's like the difference between winning the lottery and building a business over decades. One is a flashy headline. The other is a story of grit, of resilience, of showing up day after day.
And speaking of building, remember our Ice Age analogy? Just like those layers of snow slowly accumulating over time, consistent savings, even small amounts, compound, creating this snowball effect that can lead to amazing results down the line.
It's about playing the long game.
Exactly.
Building that financial fortress brick by brick, dollar by dollar, rather than pinning all our hopes on some get-rich-quick scheme that probably won't pan out anyway.
It's about having a margin of safety, that buffer, to help us navigate those inevitable storms.
A healthy savings account gives you options.
Ah.
You've got the flexibility to deal with a job loss, an unexpected medical bill, whatever curveball life throws your way.
You're not constantly on edge, worried about money. It frees you up to make those choices that align with your values, even if they're not, the highest paying.
Exactly.
And this brings us to another crucial aspect of the psychology of money, recognizing the emotional side of financial decisions.
Yeah.
Because it's huge.
Oh, for sure. As much as we'd love to pretend we're these perfectly rational beings, especially when it comes to our money,
Right.
our emotions have other plans.
Our emotions have a mind of their own. We set a budget, meticulously plan our investments, then bam, those shoes go on sale. Or that fear of missing out kicks in, and suddenly all those well-laid plans out the window.
We've all been there. It's like our emotions have this secret back door into our bank accounts, completely bypassing any logic along the way.
It's true. And that's why self-awareness is so crucial. We need to understand our financial triggers. What makes us spend impulsively? What are our financial fears? What are we hoping to avoid? What about our aspirations, our dreams? What are we really working towards?
It's just like taking a deep dive into our own money mindset, figuring out what's driving us, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Absolutely. Because once you understand your own emotional relationship with money, once you can see those patterns, you can start making more conscious, more intentional choices.
Okay, so we're getting a handle on our emotions, which, let's be real, that's a journey in itself.
Right.
But even when we think we've got our emotions in check, there's this whole other layer of information overload to deal with. Financial news, Those advice columns that promise to make you rich, even that one cousin who always seems to know the next hot stock.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they're everywhere.
That's a lot to process.
It really is. It's like trying to, I don't know, drink from a fire hose of financial information. And not all of it is good, right? Some of it's accurate, some of it's helpful, and some of it, well, let's just say it's not going to do you any favors. And that's where understanding financial narratives comes in.
Okay, financial narratives. Sounds a little Wall Street-y to me.
Hmm.
Can we break that down? What does that even mean?
Sure. It's actually simpler than it sounds. It's basically all about the stories we tell ourselves about money and the stories that other people tell us, especially when they're trying to sell us something. Think about those get-rich-quick schemes.
Oh, man.
They dangle the super enticing narrative of like, easy money, right? They know we'd love a shortcut to riches.
Yeah, it's the financial equivalent of those weight loss ads that promise you'll lose like 10 pounds a week eating only pizza.
Exactly. And we want to believe it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
It never works out the way they promise.
Never. And those stories, they're so seductive because they're tapping into our deepest desires, for security, for status, for a better life. But they rarely, if ever, show the hard work, the discipline, and honestly, sometimes just the luck that goes into real financial success.
It's like they're selling the Hollywood version of wealth, but they're leaving out all the behind-the-scenes stuff. The grit, the sacrifices, the times when it probably felt like it would never happen.
Exactly. So how do we protect ourselves from buying into those tempting but potentially very misleading narratives? I think it starts with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay, so less blindly following the hype and more like doing your homework.
Exactly. Don't just accept anyone's word at face value when it comes to your finances, even if they sound super convincing or have a fancy title. Always ask yourself, who benefits from me believing this? What are the risks they're not mentioning?
It's good to remember everyone has an agenda, even in the financial advice space. Those gurus on TV promising those big returns, I always wonder, how's their own financial house looking?
Right. Just because someone can tell a compelling story doesn't mean it's sound financial advice.
So true. So seek out multiple perspectives, do our own research,
Absolutely.
and most importantly, figure out what we actually want, what matters to us.
Now you're getting it. What are your financial priorities? Your non-negotiables? What does financial freedom actually look like to you? Once you have a solid sense of your own values, your own aspirations, you can start to filter that fire hose of financial information through your lens.
Because what works for one person, their idea of enough, the risks they're comfortable taking,
Right.
might be totally different for someone else. It's like those personality quizzes. They're fun to take, but I wouldn't base my whole life on them. You've got to figure out your own path.
100%. And the best part, that path can evolve with you. What you want at 25 is probably going to be different at 35, at 45. The key is to be open to learning, to adapting, and to approach money with that healthy mix of knowledge, a little bit of wisdom, and a good dose of self-awareness.
Which, now that I think about it, is a great way to sum up this entire deep dive. We covered so much ground.
We really did.
From the power of compound interest to those seductive narratives. We talked about aligning our spending with our values, about how important time really is, and so much more.
It's been quite a journey, but through it all, I really hope that, beyond the how-to of managing money, we've given you some things to think about when it comes to having a healthier relationship with wealth. One that gives you more control and lets you live a life that you find meaningful.
Because at the end of the day, money is just a tool. It's not about the number in your bank account, but about using that money to build the kind of life you want to live. One full of experiences, strong connections, with the freedom to pursue what truly matters to you.
Well said. It's about aligning those financial choices with your values and making sure that your money is working for you, not the other way around.
Exactly. And on that note, it's time to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, a final thought to ponder.
I like it.
What if you could use your money to buy back even just 1 hour of free time each day? Time to spend with family, to pursue that hobby you've been putting off, or just to unplug and unwind. How much would that be worth to you? It's a question that might just shift your whole perspective on what true wealth really means. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.